I'm going to give you 20 minutes of speed dating through what we have been offering and what we have on offer. The session is being recorded, so you can go back to it. I don't know why you'd want to, but maybe you do. And I will have time for questions at the end. I'm in no rush to jump off, so I've kind of set the talking part to 8:20, and then any questions that people might have. What I might just do though is, Rochelle, I'm going to volunteer you to be my co-host. So if anyone comes in while I'm speaking, if you'll get a little beep, and if you could please let them in. Thank you, Rochelle Mawson, Dunedin, you're wonderful. Right, we'll kick off this morning with karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e he aki ana, te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, te hei mauri ora. I know that you've got your laptops open and probably lots of things going on, but just giving you permission to not get distracted. It's another 20 minutes, so feel free to be fully present and ignore all the other things going on. I will just ask if you could mute your mics, but it is really lovely to see faces, so I do love a video on. So, hi Monica from Impact Ed. If you weren't expecting to see me, you're probably in the wrong place, but welcome anyway. At the moment, the ministry have opened up applications for round 2 of assessment. We're super excited about this because in the forecast of what PLD is yet to come and be announced, it's looking like it will be very much workshop based, where you will attend the workshop, kind of like the maths and for year 9 and 10 English. You will attend that workshop for 3 or 4 days over the year, and it is what it is. This PLD, this amazing assessment PLD, is absolutely about you and your kura, and it's so exciting. So for the last 6 months, we've been delivering this with a number of schools, and yes, we're not the only provider. Have a look through, make sure that you choose someone you want to work with or that you've got a relationship with already. But it is exciting because these 3 days are for you in your context, in your kura. So when you apply, you don't have to choose who you work with at that stage. You just get your application in. Once you hear back if you're approved, then you can start making those decisions. It is for 2027, so you don't need to make any decisions now. Sometimes the contracts come through early, so it might be that you're thinking you wanted to start in term 4. That's absolutely acceptable if contracts are signed through the ministry and providers. So what we're offering is the 3 days. I'm not entirely sure this round if you can apply for 6. In the last round, you could either apply for 6. You could apply and you either got 6 or you got given 3. The schools that were allocated 3 days can reapply for another 3. I'm not sure what that means for new schools applying, whether or not you'll be given 6 or 3 based on need. The tricky thing to look out for is if they are allocating 6, then your acceptance email will say 6 days declined, 3 day accepted. So a lot of schools didn't realize they had PLD because the first few words in the email said declined. So if you apply and you get that email that says something random, still open it and check to see what you've got. So you don't apply for 3 or 6. At the other end, in the last round, the ministry decided if you got 3 or 6, but I couldn't find anything that actually said whether the 6 was available for this round. So within your 3 days of PLD, on top of that, there's also 4 online 1-hour community of practices, and we run those for everyone at the same time. We record them, and what we do in those sessions is we make sure we're covering off all of the Ministry of Education information that you need to know. And what that means is within your 3 days, we can do whatever you like around assessment, and we've still got you covered with all that ministry information coming out. So as you can imagine, in the first 6 months of this PLD, we were doing a lot around reporting to parents in SMART because that was all new. Some schools were saying, hey, we're not going to engage in SMART yet. We said, that's cool. This community practice is on that part, but also we put some standardized testing stuff in there and how to use that data to inform your practice. So we're trying to be really inclusive of make sure everyone's getting the right information at the right time, but then you get your in-school support as well. I tried to make a slide look pretty, but I couldn't. What's been on top? So these are some of the things we've been working with schools on in the last 6 months. Looking at assessment for learning, using data to inform practice, data literacy, leading assessment, effective feedback. I'll send you through the slideshow so you can have a look through that. We've been looking at different AI tools and how we can use those to strengthen assessment, standardized assessment, reporting to parents. Honestly, you name it, we've been working on it, and it has absolutely been sitting down with Kuta and saying what's on top and then kind of working through what's going to work for them. So Katie, our wonderful Katie Tullett, has designed a framework that we have been working through, Tō Manaakitanga, and it's just a reminder when we're working with schools and something for teachers to kind of hang their hat on. What is our assessment data? So what have we got? So what? And then what now, basically. So we've got our assessment data. What does that mean? And then how are we making sure we've got that curriculum coverage based on that data that we've got in front of us? So this is a model we developed kind of halfway through last term that we've started working through with schools. And we've just found it to be really successful because it gives us something to hang our hat on. And everything we do, Katie and I, total assessment nerds. So everything we do is underpinned by evidence and research. We've both completed our Masters of Education and both picked up as much assessment for learning and assessment research and papers as we could. And Katie's an even bigger nerd at the moment and is currently working towards her doctorate. So that's very exciting. One thing we did find is that schools were doing an amazing job of gathering data, but not necessarily using it in a formative way. So we've done a lot of work around that, and that was something that was picked up by Aero as well. So just navigating, we've got all of these little points and all of this data we can grab, but what are we actually doing with that? And unless we're doing something with it, it's not formative. So we're kind of unpacking that misconception that we may use formative assessment strategies, but unless we're doing something with that data that we're gathering or those things that we're seeing, we're being summative with an opportunity to really be formative. So we've been doing a lot of work around that with schools. How do we deliver? Again, the list is kind of endless. Lots of schools booked us for teacher-only days. And then we also had that whole, 17 schools wanted us on a teacher-only day all at the same time. So what we have been doing is kind of working with regions. So for example, up in the Hawke's Bay, we had 2 schools that wanted to have a teacher-only day, and they came together and we worked together because they had similar needs. I've got one next week, similar in the North Island. We had a day here in Christchurch that we set up where we had 60 kaiako looking at leading assessment, and that was run for some schools as their teacher-only day. So we're really clear we like to get stuff out early so that schools have the opportunity to engage. We've got a day down in Oamaru on Thursday this week, and we've got multiple schools coming together, and we've got some, sole charge principals that have navigated that because we've given them plenty time, and then they can actually come together and have conversations with other principals. We've had teachers release, we've done it through staff hui. Sometimes we've done a whole day and then done online check-ins for a bit and then done another day. We definitely have found having accountability documentation really good. So some schools are working through their professional growth cycles, and others we're just making sure we've kind of got that paperwork to ensure that we're checking in and we're all on the same page. So again, I'll let you have a look through that and see if something floats your boat. There's kind of nothing we won't do in regards to how schools want to work. But what we've found is when schools partner, we're finding that people have similar needs and similar wants. But then it might be that you want one of your days just for you, right? So some schools are saying, well, we'll allocate one of our teacher-only day to a group teacher-only day, or to a group, we'll release our leaders to learn more about assessment leadership. But actually, we really want a day to ourselves, and that's absolutely fine as well. For some of you that might not feel psychologically safe, like you might we want to know what our 3 days look like in our school, and we want to know exactly what you're going to cover and what this is going to look like. That's not us, because we sit down with you first to navigate what it is you need. But there are other providers that run their ship that way. And so there are lots of choices that you can choose from, but we want to make sure that we tailor. So the MOE is not covering travel from island to island. Katie and I are both in Canterbury, but as I said, I was in Hawke's Bay. If you have a number of schools that will partner together, we will fund the travel to come to you. So if we can, my husband's the financial business guy of Impacted, so he looks at the numbers and goes, yep, we get paid per school. If we've got enough schools paying that day, through the ministry contract, then we can make it up there and come and support you face to face. So some will do a trip and then we do online check-ins. Smaller rural schools actually have really appreciated that kind of small and often check-in, especially teaching principals, just trying to keep on top of all of the things whilst running a class and doing their own assessments, etc. And also, yeah, there are always exceptions to the rule. So I would suggest applying. If you get it, then start having conversations with providers and see what's going to suit you. If you worked with Bex or James, we're still kind of working through what that looks like. They're up in the North Island and navigating what that may look like. So flick me an email if you're a bit anxious that you might not get them if you wanted to work with them, and we'll make sure that you absolutely do get what you need. Yeah, between Katie and I, we're small but mighty, but we're absolute assessment nerds. So this is our jam. It's always been our jam. As soon as any curriculum kind of comes out, we're navigating, well, how are we going to teach this? How are we going to assess this? How are we going to know that our kids are getting what they need out of this? So we love putting paperwork into pedagogy. And as I said before, we've both worked through Assessment for Learning papers through our Masters of Education, and Katie's a doctorate nerd at the moment. And just, hey, heads up, it's actually in the curriculum. When you look at the overview page of English and Maths, it is absolutely sprinkled through with Assessment for Learning practices. I know it's not necessarily the message that has been coming through from the top, but it is there. So it's exciting that it is there, and we've been doing a lot of working through that. So, oh man, I absolutely speed dated through that. That was 11 minutes. I'd given myself 19. Where do we start with Kura? We honestly want to help strengthen your educators' confidence and knowledge. We're finding that actually a lot of teachers are feeling quite beaten down, and we're finding that the messaging from the media sometimes is that they're not doing a good job. We know your kaiako are awesome, 100%. We work with schools all around the country, and I haven't found a teacher yet that goes to school to be a dick, you know? We're all working super hard to do what we can for these wonderful young people in front of us. And so our job as outsiders coming in is to work alongside you to strengthen teacher confidence and competence. And whether or not that's us going away and finding out things that you need and bringing that back to you in a way that's manageable. For some of our sole charge principals, we've been helping them create resources that they can utilise, and also actually some of our bigger schools as well. So the contract is for teachers of year 0 to 10, and then we've got some intermediates that are choosing to work with their local secondary with a year 9 and 10 and kind of navigate pathways. But our main mission with this, honestly, is to take the power back for our educators and to be really confident and competent in what we're delivering and why we're delivering it. Everything I've just talked through, so many of you will be like, we used to do that, we used to do this, we used to have a massive focus on assessment for learning. And I think we've got to that tipping point now where actually it's so important that we come back around to that and we have those small but often check-ins so we can navigate the curriculum as educators because it's new, and we can make sure that we're hitting the mark, but also what does that mean for our young people? So we've been doing lots around how do we access the curriculum in a way that it is for a year level or multi-year levels, if that's what you're teaching, which we're finding most are. Certainly Katie and I did when we were teaching. So what does the planning look like, and how can we keep ourselves safe, essentially, with all of this stuff coming at us and feel really confident as educators? So what we want to make sure we're doing is we're building that ladder for our young people. So that's part of that messaging with the curriculum, but I don't know that it's necessarily come out the right way. It's what my dad always said to me, it's not what you said, it's the way you said it. So we're making sure that we are trying to shift that bar a little bit higher for our students, but building that ladder so that they can get there with all of the support that they need and feel like they are successful and feel like they can celebrate what they're doing at Kura each day. So this is the first question we always come in and ask because we always want to be really positive about the wonderful things you're doing in your kura. So what is something your kura does well? And so even if you go away and reflect on that today and just give yourself a little high five because you guys are all doing amazing jobs. So what we want to do is help you strengthen what you're doing well and then challenge yourself on the things you could do better, but will help you get there. So it is open. When you apply, make sure you check that you've got the right ESL delegation, especially if you're an acting principal, Mr. Winterbourne. Make sure you can get in there. If you are having trouble, if you scroll down, further down, there's something about ESL, flip them an email and they will get you sorted to make sure that you can log on. If you've started a new role at a new school, make sure you're not applying for your old school when you log in, because sometimes on our computer by default it'll take us through. Just double check the name of the school when you go in, because yay if you apply for another school, but boo if you missed out because you applied for the other school. When you apply, it is going to ask you questions. It's only one, so even if you look at the second page, because they say exactly the same thing, but one's for your teachers and one's for your school leaders. It's going to ask you to rank each of these. So you'll see there's actually 10 of these. Each of these from 1 to 4, 1 being emerging and 4 being exceeding. And then it's going to ask you to add a comment. Okay, so I might say that using high impact practices to inform an assessment approach, I feel like our school is growing its understanding about high impact assessment practices. And then you could just add a comment saying, we're doing some research on this at the moment. It's something we would like to engage in. Like, don't go crazy and write an essay about all of the things that you're doing. Just give it a quick little backup of where you're at around that particular sub-focus area. So some schools like to have a Google Doc and they've kind of got their sentences written already, but others you can just go in. I jumped online with a principal yesterday and we had it done, and honestly it was about 10 minutes. I've been working really closely with them so I could kind of give them guidance about the sentences that they could write, but they're not looking for essays. They're just looking for a couple of sentences to back up why you're there. And most of your sentences will likely be, we are working towards this, or we started this last year, but we've been working on curriculum this year, you know, so it's just giving them an idea of what it is that you're working through. So that is all. I'll send you a follow-up email. I'll send you a link to this website to apply, and I will also attach that rubric so you can have a look before you go in and apply. Jan, great question. Is there a time frame? I think that one was, sorry, I just need to go into my comments. Yes, all of next year. Isn't that great? You got the whole of 2027 to do this. So even if you feel like you're not ready, I would highly recommend applying, because this might be, I'm not trying to like scaremonger anyone, but this looks like it might be the last sort of PLD where you get to choose your provider and actually talk about what the PLD looks like. There is a application process coming out for us as providers to apply to deliver PLD, and reading between the lines, the delivery of that PLD looks like we will be chosen to deliver a Christchurch workshop on said thing. Here is your PowerPoint, deliver this, similar to the maths. So this is kind of the last thing at the moment in the current situation that we know, where you get to be really flexible. So even if you feel like right now you're not ready, honestly, spend your 10 minutes, get the application in. You can always say no if you get it and just be like, no, actually, we don't want that. But I'd highly recommend you getting it in. So I will just finish with karakia, but I'll stay online with any questions. Thank you for spending your morning with me. It's been lovely to see so many wonderful faces online. That was very speed dating-y, but I will also send you the presentations if there were little bits in there that you wanted to have a look through. I'll finish with karakia and then I'll come to any questions. Kia whakaria te tapu, kia wātia ai te ara, kia turaki whakataha ai, kia turaki whakataha ai, haumie hui taike. Thank you everyone for joining me this morning. You're absolutely wonderful and you're doing an awesome job. Keep up the great mahi. I will just stop recording, so if anyone wants to ask questions that they don't want recorded, stop.